Now, as you all know, a lot of Star Wars fans around the world are very excited about what's to come for the future of the franchise by both Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, along with George Lucas really helping out to really kind of revive Star Wars Legends and bring it back into the Disney canon, and exactly how it's going to be balanced out between Legends and the already existing Disney canon material. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now that brings us to Disney CEO Bob Iger. Now we know that Bob Iger has been in a bit of a rough spot for the past couple of months now. We already know that, he was pretty much the only choice that the Disney board had to get ASAP, as soon as possible, after Chapek was fired, and because they could not find anybody else, they had to get Iger back in, essentially. And ever since then, Iger has been doing a lot of damage control, he's been doing a lot of changes to the Star Wars franchise, to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, stuff like that. And there's a lot of great things coming out of the franchise related to Star Wars now, given that Jon and Dave have so many privileges over at Lucasfilm, all thanks to Chapek for really kind of giving them all these different promotions over at Lucasfilm, where basically Jon and Dave are almost acting like they are the president of the company when they're really not. They just have those privileges, and that's what's great about all of this. Now, jumping forward to where things are heading right now for Bob Iger and what he recently did and why it put him in a very tough spot with the Disney board involves the cancellation of a specific Star Wars trilogy. We will be diving into everything about this and exactly what's been going on. However, with Bob Iger making big adjustments behind the scenes at Disney and Lucasfilm, he has been cleaning up house over at Lucasfilm to create a better and brighter future for the Star Wars franchise. Now further, it's described that just recently Bob Iger made the ultimate call to cancel a huge Star Wars trilogy altogether that has been an ongoing thing now for the past several months. It's described that Iger finally got around to canceling Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy altogether, something that Chapek was in the process of doing for a while before he got fired. However, Iger is doing something that the board is very angry with right now, is that Iger is covering it up that the trilogy is remaining on the back burner and that it's in limbo, just so Disney does not have to come forward and officially announce that it's cancelled, as Iger does not want to show signs of defeat and or making it look like the fans got their way. So let me just pause here for a second. So that once again just goes to show you that Iger still technically is a part of the problem, even though he's allowing Jon and Dave to do what they want to do. This right here is a prime example of why Iger needs to really shape up. So basically what he did was, the Rian Johnson trilogy, it is over, it's not happening, it's cancelled, and he's covering it up that it's actually on the back burner, that it's in limbo, that it could still happen, stuff like that. And basically they're doing this to avoid any kind of major headlines, any kind of fan uproar that they were right all along, stuff like that they want to avoid. And you know what, to tell you the truth, that's exactly what would happen. A lot of fans would definitely rave about that news coming out all over the headlines and really kind of just putting it out there officially. So Iger, what he's doing is that the Rian Johnson trilogy was cancelled, and he's covering it up that, like I said before, that it remains on the back burner. Kind of like what happened to the Kenobi trilogy or the movie a couple years back. It remained on the back burner, but it did eventually happen. It just turned into a Star Wars TV show. So that was the real scenario. But in this scenario, they're just using that as kind of like a little, ruse, if you will, about what's really going to happen. So with that being said, given that the Disney board is very frustrated and furious about Iger's move doing this by being very dishonest with the fans and the community, it actually is going to be causing quite a number of issues on Disney's part, because now you got the board members not all that happy with Iger, and Iger really not caring about what the board thinks and just moving along with his plan. So I think that all these shakeups between the board and Bob Iger, it could very well lead to, perhaps, if they find somebody else, perhaps getting a new replacement as fast as possible. And we already know that Bob Iger wants to leave, you know, and not in the not too distant future. He doesn't want to stay here for long. So that brings us to the next big thing, is that the board is very, of course, frustrated with Iger's dishonesty to the fans over this strategy by canceling Johnson's trilogy and covering it up as remaining on the back burner. This is also something that he forced Kathleen Kennedy to tell fans, if questioned, as well as Rian Johnson. The reason why Iger is in trouble about this as well is that this is creating false expectations for people who are fans of Rian Johnson's work, and Disney does not want to do that to his fans who enjoyed The Last Jedi and Rian's other films, thinking his trilogy is still set to arrive. Johnson's trilogy was going to be based on a new galaxy, taking away all familiar things away from the Star Wars franchise and throwing George Lucas's vision to the wayside. So once again, Johnson's trilogy, I've said this time and time again, it would not have resonated well with the fans. It would not have worked for multiple reasons. You know, you're taking away familiar aspects and aesthetics of the Star Wars universe. You can't do that. You gotta keep that familiar aspect in place. I'm not saying it always has to be about Anakin and Luke and stuff like that. All I'm saying is it needs the familiar aesthetics of Star Wars. It has to have that. And Rian Johnson, basically, this trilogy, what he was gonna do, he was gonna take away all of that, basically diminishing everything that you know about Star Wars. For example, let's get rid of all the starfighters, let's get rid of the lightsabers, let's get rid of Jedi, let's get rid of whatever. Just anything that you can think about when it comes to Star Wars, anything familiar, throw it in the trash and start with the new. A brand new theme, if you will, for the Star Wars universe to really evolve it. And we already talked about how his trilogy was going to be based well into the future after the Force is dead and no more, and is instead called the Vitality, almost treating the Force like a dying star when it becomes a dwarf. So there's a lot of things rolling into this, and Iger really, I think, is making a big mistake by not coming forward and officially saying, we messed up with The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson's trilogy is no more, he's focusing on his murder mystery universe, Knives Out movies, etc. And that's that. You know, it doesn't really hurt. I don't know why Bob Iger just don't come out and say it forward to the fans, and why he's keeping things so quiet behind closed doors. The board's very angry with him. This is a very big thing right now behind the scenes, and there's not really all that great of a thing happening out of this. So it's going to be a very interesting next couple of months, because we always get an earnings call, you know, every couple of months, and Iger gets on there, he talks about the reports and stuff like that. We're going to be getting another one pretty soon, so keep your eyes open for that. But overall, everything related to Disney Star Wars right now, it all really is focused on Mando 3 and Ahsoka. That's going to really be the thing that creates the momentum again. So anyways, guys, you know, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.